Hello, welcome again to FairTax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And we are the world famous
FairTax
guys. Do you want to elaborate on that world famous stuff?
Yes,
here?
Well, if you go to Spreaker, where the platform on which we launch our podcasts, they have, I'm not sure if everybody can see this, but as the manager of the thing, there's a stats, and one of the stats is geolocation, and I printed out this map. The FairTax Power Radio podcasts are being heard in, of course, the United States, Germany, South Korea, Finland, Barbados, and Guyana.
Well, let's just hope none of those other places decide to adopt the fair tax before the U.S. does.
Yeah, you never know.
The first country to adopt the fair tax is going to be the business haven of the world.
Huge advantage.
And
yeah.
We're going to have all kinds. In fact, I heard one time that Neil Bortz was approached by someone from a foreign country asking him to come down there and explain. He says, "No way, I'm giving this to you. I want my country to have it."
Yeah.
Way to go, Neil.
Yep.
But that's how that goes.
Okay, next order of business.
Next order of business, we have some new co-sponsors on HR 25.
This is wonderful to report. All right, I can't remember if we mentioned this on the last episode, but last month we got a new co-sponsor from Alabama. His name is Gary Palmer. He's a representative from Alabama, and he became the 30th or 31st. The numbers have escaped me, but anyways, he became a co-sponsor of HR 25, and we want to thank Representative Palmer. He did this all on his own. Yeah, we did mention it because he had been a co-sponsor before, but then he took a break for one or two Congress sessions. Now in the 116th Congress, he is again a co-sponsor of HR 25.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks very much. And I guess that kind of spurred some other work because
our buddy Paul Livingston was working on some folks.
Yeah. Well, let's do Michael Waltz first.
Okay.
Michael Waltz is a representative here in Florida, District 6. That's the district that now Governor DeSantis represented when he was in Congress. And Michael Waltz signed the FairTax Candidates Pledge in last year when he was running for office. We have, I want to thank Ed Connor, who's a member of the board and the vice president of the Florida FairTax. He kind of kept gentle pressure on Mr. Waltz's office and his staffers because we were hoping that Mr. Waltz, he did successfully win election and got sworn in January. But anyways, even though it's a little later than we had hoped, he became a co-sponsor like 2 weeks ago. So we're very grateful to Congressman Waltz for following through on his promise to co-sponsor the fair tax.
So the key word there, keep the pressure on, but stay respectful, stay nice, don't get ugly about it.
And that's what Ed Connors did, gentle pressure. It's a good thing Ed was doing it because he's a lot more patient than I am.
Well, he signed the pledge. He needed to follow through on it.
That's right.
Pleased to report that he did.
Yeah. Anyways, did we unplug the phones?
I don't know. I unplugged mine.
Okay. Anyways, I want to
hear the one that sounds like a steam train go off now.
Yeah, that's down there in the here in the FairTax Power Radio studio. Which is our living room.
We have a phone that sounds like a steam locomotive. I love that.
We do. That was a gift from our daughter. Okay, then last week we had another pleasant surprise. John Rutherford, also here in Florida, District 4, and that's kind of the Jacksonville area, surrounding area, and he became a co-sponsor. And this is another example of how grassroots volunteers can have an effect. Paul Livingston, who's not only a volunteer, he's also a member of the board here for Florida FairTax. He had set up a meeting with Mr. Congressman Rutherford to ask him, why haven't you co-sponsored the FairTax? It fits a lot of your agenda. Well, from the time he scheduled the meeting, which was this past Monday, and the meeting actually took place, Congressman Rutherford decided to co-sponsor.
Very good.
And, it's on congress.gov and everything. So I'm maintaining that because of the pressure the gentle pressure that Paul Livingston exerted on the congressman, he decided, okay, this is a good time. For some reason, I had the mistaken opinion that Mr. Rutherford had been a co-sponsor previously, and Paul said, no, he's never been a co-sponsor before, but he is now. And Paul and a couple other volunteers followed through with their meeting. They had a very good meeting. It was wonderful for Paul to be able to say thank you for co-sponsoring, all right, instead of, hey, why haven't you co-sponsored yet? That's always a better meeting. So we've got 32 co-sponsors. That makes 32, right? That makes 33 altogether, counting the primary sponsor. We're moving along. So don't let up.
Yes, but when you consider there are 435 members in the House and 100 senators, 33 is a fairly small number. So there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
That's something that everyone out there watching FairTax Power Radio or listening to the podcast can do. Schedule a meeting with your representative, your senators if you can. If they are co-sponsoring the FairTax, thank them for it. If they're not, just ask them what they love so much about the IRS.
Yeah.
And, with the election season, election cycle cranking up, these politicians are going to be more accessible than they usually are sometimes.
Yep.
More sensitive to listening to folks because they say, well, if you'll co-sponsor the FairTax, I'll vote for you. How's that?
Yeah.
See how that works.
Why wouldn't you want your constituents to take home their full paycheck?
I don't know.
That's a good question. You can ask them.
That's one of Paul Wazakowski's better videos there.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Those 5 lunch and taxes.
You see
videos.
some of those at the end of these, FairTax Power Radio episodes.
Yep. So there are a lot of reasons, and there's lots of ways you can contact your congressman. Remember, you're in their district. They're supposed to represent you, so you need to have their ear and make it very clear that you expect them to co-sponsor the FairTax. And if it is unfortunate right now, things are so polarized and we only have Republican co-sponsors. That's not because the FairTax, we have been doing this for 4 years, and we've made the case the FairTax is nonpartisan. It is a beautiful bill that helps all Americans, regardless.
Yes, because it's not about spending. It does not set anybody's spending priorities. It does not favor a conservative spending agenda over a liberal one or vice versa. It just simply raises the same amount of money that the income tax system does in a much simpler, much more administratively easy to administer way to do it, much fairer to everybody. The debate on how to spend it still goes on. This is just simply about how to raise it. And everybody, regardless of your political affiliation or ideology, should like more money in your paycheck, no tax returns, no IRS, all of the great things that come with a fair tax, cross-partisan and ideological lines. So everyone should be on board with a fair tax here, and we're going to keep trying until everybody is.
Absolutely. So don't take no for an answer. I mean, regardless of your congressperson's, your representative's party affiliation, all right, don't give up. Keep on the gentle pressure, just like with these folks that we just mentioned, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Waltz, and Mr. Rutherford. All right, the volunteers kept the pressure on, and in fact, that was the subject of Jim Bennett's Grassroots Corners, how the people in Alabama kept the pressure on Mr. Palmer, and he finally did co-sponsor. So you can do the same thing. You can go to their office and schedule a face-to-face meeting. You can send emails. You can make phone calls, or you can do all of the above. You can contact their office in your home district. You can contact their office in Washington. Get your friends and neighbors together. Have a campaign of people calling in. Don't be belligerent or anything, but be respectful, but be assertive, and we'll get some more co-sponsors. We have to get this done, it's up to you.
Leave them comments on PopVox.
Comments on PopVox. PopVox, great website, popvox.com. All right, you go on there, you sign up with your name and address. That way the system knows where you live and who your representative is and who your 2 senators are. And as far as your representative, you can, if they're currently a co-sponsor of H.R. 25, thank them. All right, you can go on to PopVox and look up HR 25 and say why you're in favor of it. Your comments, when on PopVox, will go as a letter to your representative and your 2 senators, and you will get a response. So that's another good way to put some pressure on them.
Yep, absolutely.
So, and I'll mention one other thing. 5 years ago, the Florida legislature adopted that memorial, Senate Memorial 118. I think we're the only state in the country to do this, but the memorial it's another name for a resolution. Here in Florida, the Florida legislature in Tallahassee adopted this memorial that said it was the legislature, it was their official policy to encourage Congress to adopt the FairTax, to get rid of the income tax, get rid of the IRS, and adopt the income tax. Well, maybe your state can do that too. Maybe if we had more states adopting these FairTax friendly memorials, it might get the message up to our friends in Washington.
All right. Well, let's shift gears here a little bit on Fairtax Power Radio and take our look at congress.gov. Oh, yes.
Yeah, take it away, Bob.
This is we're recording this on the 21st of June, so it's a couple of days before it's actually going to air. And if you go into the search function at congress.gov and put in quotes the words Internal Revenue Code and hit the search function, you see how many hits, on current legislation are referencing that string. And as of recording date here today, there is an even 800 hits. Many of those represent proposed changes to the tax code. And how many days has Congress been in session?
Yeah, I figured it up today. Like you said, today's the 21st of June. By my figures, Congress, the House of Representatives, has been in session 73 days, counting today. So you take 800 divided by 73, you get very close to 11, which has been pretty much, they've been holding true. 11 proposals each day they're in Congress to change the tax code.
And they got some real good ones again here. S 1935 from Senator Brown of Ohio, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to ensure that working families have access to affordable health insurance coverage. They're going back there again. Since they got rid of the individual mandate, I guess this may be a chance to try to put it back. We've seen this one before. Amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow a refundable credit with respect to any stillborn child of a taxpayer. We've seen that before. That is H.R. 3367 from Representative Dean Phillips of Minnesota. Our own Congressman Yoho has one here.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty good. It's let's see if I can find it right quick. It's about the to ensure that tax preparers are competent at what they do, is basically what it is. There it is, the Taxpayer Protection and Preparer Proficiency Act of 2019, sponsored by Ted Yoho, which is, of course, a good idea.
As long as we have the income tax.
Yes, Representative Yoho is a very strong fair tax supporter, so we don't want to give him any flack over that, but we do know that if he can at least realize that the income tax code is so complicated that anybody who wants to can set up a corner office and say, I'm a tax preparer. Yeah. So I guess the idea here is to make sure that folks kind of halfway know what they're doing.
Of course, if we adopted the fair tax, that would be totally unnecessary,
Absolutely, it would. But
totally, all right? And this does happen. A friend of ours went to a tax preparer, and this tax preparer found a way for her to get this huge refund. She wasn't banking that much money, and I thought, this doesn't sound right. Sure enough, about 2 years later, the IRS sent her a letter and said, sorry, that's a problem and we need the money back. And where was that tax preparer at that point? Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found. So this brings to mind again the Money Magazine study from, it's almost 40 years ago now, where they asked 50 different tax preparers what a mythological family owed in taxes, or a hypothetical family, and gave all of them the same information. This is what they are. These are their kids. These are their investments. This is their job. This, that, and the other. How much does this family owe? 50 different preparers gave 49 different answers. That was 40 years ago, nearly. And the tax code has mushroomed in complexity since then. So I guess we can give Congressman Yoho a hats off for trying to at least ensure that some people are going to the tax preparer you're going to halfway knows what they're doing.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice.
Oh, that's crazy. But talking about crazy things here on Congress.gov, we have been making fun of the kiddie tax. I really wasn't sure what that was when we first saw it. But Steve Hayes did a chairman's report on it a while back, and explained it. In a nutshell, what was happening was that higher income parents, this was back in the 80s, the higher income parents had discovered a way to shield a lot of their income to help them fund their children's education. And they figured, well, if we transfer assets or income producing assets to our children, their tax rate is much going to be lower than mine. So I can.
First off, when did it become necessary to tax children? I mean, the whole concept is just foreign to the foundation of this country.
Yeah, but the whole idea, when these higher income folks were transferring income and assets to their children, and their children were paying a much lower tax rate, the geniuses who write the tax code, and those are Steve Hayes' words, but I'm going to borrow them, decided we can't have that. So this kiddie tax was implemented, which basically says income generated by a minor child is taxed at the parent's income tax rate.
Yeah.
So that's what this kiddie tax is all about.
Yeah, and
there have been multiple changes to it. They've got it now so that the kiddie tax can be 3 times. The kids can be paying 3 times the tax rate that their parents do.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But that's what that was. You got?
I've got
you
some
got
stuff
some IRS
on it. First off, I searched for kiddie tax and I found this, and it's written by the IRS. So I figured, what the heck with that?
Nobody there understands it either.
Yeah, I found this from Investopia. All right. Investopia, all right, by Julia Kagan, and this is dated just a few days ago, June 17th. Okay, the kiddie tax is a term that refers to a special tax law created in 1986 dealing with investment and unearned income for individuals under 17 years of age. Well, yeah, if they're under 17, they're probably not working, and it would be unearned, all right? Breaking down the kiddie tax, they go through this. The kiddie tax was imposed on individuals under 17 whose unearned income was higher than the annually determined threshold, whatever that was, and we're not going to get into that much detail. For 2018, the IRS taxed any income exceeding the threshold at the child's guardian's rate, okay? But then the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, now wait a minute, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, that was going to solve all our problems, right?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah, right. Well, that greatly changed the kiddie tax. Now when a child's income exceeds the threshold, the kiddie tax uses the taxation structure where the amount earned dictates the rate rather than the tax rate of the child's parents. Well, and that's just what Bob was saying. That can be many times what the parents is. So the whole concept of a kiddie tax. Now, there's some parents that tried to take advantage by moving assets away from out of their own, and Prince. What is that?
That says kiddie tax on Prince Archie. That was one of your favorite things.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about the royal baby having to pay.
Yeah, right. The kiddie tax. That's a good way of looking at it. Mrs. Producer, I forgot to start the clock, so keep us posted on the
time. I've got an idea.
Okay, good, because I have no idea. All right, anyways,
so that's
I'm not going to get any further into that, but the fact that we have an income tax and the people want to tax children is just abhorrent. I mean, can you imagine a founding father coming back now and learning about this?
We'll have to ask Thomas Jefferson about that.
It's crazy.
But I would suggest that people go to fairtax.org and look up the Chairman's Report archive. I believe this one was May 24th. Somehow that date sticks in my head about the kiddie tax. And there was something in Steve's article about that. There was a doctor who created a medical lab that was owned by his child's trust.
Mm-hmm.
So then when he used that lab in his medical practice, the money he was paying his kid's lab became a legitimate business deduction. So there's some pretty creative ways to do that. So that's what the kiddie tax is.
And as long as you have an income tax, people are going to try to find a way around it because they want to keep the fruits of their labor. Okay.
Wow. What a novel concept.
Yeah. It is. It is unusual inside the Beltway, but for the rest of us, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, but the income tax is such a monstrosity, and we've been here on FairTax Power Radio trying to get people to let's give the fair tax a chance here. And we've had the same comment on some of our Facebook streams several times, talking about how do we give the fair tax a test drive, which would be a good idea. But this one particular comment we keep getting says, let's have a dual system of the let people choose between paying the IRS or paying the fair tax.
Well, and
I love the idea of giving the fair tax a test drive, because once people see that they can bring home their full gross amount, they get their prebate tax refund every month, they don't have to fill out a tax return, all the beautiful things that come with the fair tax. Once people see that, once you understand it, you'll demand it. You really like it. But having it side by side with an income tax is one of the things that the designers of the fair tax said absolutely positively no way we're going to do that.
We can't. We can't do that.
You cannot give Congress an income tax and the fair tax, even on a trial basis.
No.
So there's all kinds of complexity and fraud opportunities if you try to have this parallel system. So let's give the fair tax a test drive at the state level. Why don't we get a state to do it?
Yeah, that's a good idea, and a couple of states are very close to doing it. I think Georgia and Alabama come to mind, all right? Mm-hmm. And Florida kind of is a fair tax state, because we don't have an income tax, but we don't have a prebate.
Yeah, we don't have the prebate to untax the spending up to the poverty level.
This other idea that you mentioned, it reminds me of the proposal by Senator Ben Cardin from Maryland. He has a proposal in which our federal taxing system would include an income tax, a consumption tax, and a VAT tax.
That sounds like something a politician would come up with.
Yeah, he thinks it's a dandy idea. I mean, just think of all the good they can do when they raise all that money from us.
The private economists who came up with the fair tax have a better idea, don't you?
Yeah, and and Steve Hayes, the president of the national group, on his trips to Washington, well, he met with Senator Cardin, and Senator Cardin said, I'm something to the effect of, I'll be glad to working with you on this consumption tax. Except that Steve, he had to put on a nice face and said, well, yes, I'd love to work with you, except inside he was thinking, no VAT tax, no income tax, please.
Yes.
No, don't do this.
Yeah, the fair tax was designed by private economists, and one of the design parameters was that it needs to raise the same amount of money as the income tax does. So you replace the income tax with a fair tax, revenue neutral. You don't need the VAT tax on top of it. You certainly don't need an income tax on top of it. So the fair tax as written will just replace what the income tax system brings in.
The fair tax, here's a comment from one of our viewers and listeners, Ted Davis. Thanks for this, Ted. This was a while ago, so I apologize for not getting to it sooner, but grown-ups are familiar with child-proofing. Yeah, we used to call it two-proofing. Seems like when our kids were 2, they could get into anything. We had to two-proof the house, okay? That's what he's talking about. To keep the little ones from mischief or accident that could cause harm to themselves or other, all right? The fair tax puts the tax code on a high shelf so that the little ones can't raise the top rate, So we have to child-proof the tax code against Congress. You can think of it that way.
A while back here on FairTax Power Radio, we were talking about having a logo or slogan contest for the IRS.
Yeah.
Didn't get a whole lot of response to that at the time, but we got something the other day that I thought was really cool. I've got to give credit to Lance Sanders for coming up with this one. Of all the things that we've heard so far as the tax slogans, Lance says the IRS's motto, "We take more before 9 a.m. than most people make all day."
Yeah. It's Miller.
Way to go, Lance. I like that one.
That's a good one. Now, if you remember from past FairTax Power radios, and this was probably last February, because I was looking it up, because I have one, I like it, and I'm sorry, I can't find who gave it to us. First off, there's one it's pretty much public domain. We have what it takes to take what you have, all right? IRS. But this one, I saw this on Facebook. I didn't copy down the name. I apologize for it. Never let hard work go unpunished.
Oh, I know where that one came from.
Yeah?
Boss Hog. Yes, I'm dating myself. I used to watch that show.
I watch that occasionally too. But all right, and then our good old friend Bob here. What Bill of Rights?
The IRS recognizes the Bill of Rights? What's that?
Yep. And the IRS equals theirs. That's another one. This one I like, and this one I just got recently from Carlos Phillips, who's a frequent contributor on email to us. Stop the stealing and start the healing.
Not bad.
That's a good one. Yep. All right. That's one of Elaine's favorites. All right. And one that we had last week in we had our annual board of directors annual meeting. It's the only time all year that we meet face to face here in Florida. And Steve Hayes came up with what I thought is a great one. And this one is in favor of the fair tax. It doesn't criticize the IRS, but it's in favor of the fair tax. The only fair tax is the fair tax.
That works.
I like that. Yeah.
Still like we take more before 9 a.m. than most people make all day.
Yeah. That really gets to the... And then of course the comments about child-proofing the tax, so that's good. So we got about 5 minutes here, and you got a bunch of logo store stuff there, do you not? If you have more slogans, please email them to us, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com.
Or put them on our Facebook page in the comments. We'll read that as well.
Yep. Okay. fairtaxlogostore.org. fairtaxlogostore.org. That's where you go to purchase fair tax promotional items. I keep showing this one. All right, nice tote bag. They have smaller ones that could serve as a lunch bag. They have shirts and hats and so forth. You can get, and the shirts now have pockets in which you can keep your prebate cards. All right, the little cards here.
Now, our friend Randy Fisher, took one of these down to the Trump rally a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
and
that's right. And he got noticed.
Some high-powered folks saw it. So this is a really good thing if you're going to go to a town hall or a candidates meeting or something like that, especially the ones that say no signs. When you can't bring a sign in, you can stick this in your pocket.
Yeah.
Then when the guy's looking at you, fair tax.
Slip it in your socks. That's plastic, So, the prebate card, which I keep in my pocket, and Congressman Yoho keeps in his shirt pocket.
Yes, he does.
Basic information on one side, the prebate schedule on the back side. This is a very popular item, okay? And you can also get a package of palm cards, all right, or palm cards, pocket cards, whatever you want to call them. We're in the middle of updating these, so pretty soon we're going to have a little bit more current information on them. Good information here, all right. Pens, all kinds of pens and so forth. These are handy. You can, stick them on your shirt, or my wife always has this on the strap of her purse, and we've drawn some interest, and we've gotten some great volunteers because they saw this pin on the strap of my wife's purse. It's good. So, fairtaxlogostore.org, fairtaxlogostore.org. Please help us out by visibly demonstrating your support for the fair tax.
All right, and real quickly, let me mention that some of the folks that were watching us at 11:30 when we were on at 11:30 a.m. on Wednesdays, they have found us on our new time slot here. So hopefully that we encourage people to share the videos, tell your family and friends about it. If you can't watch it live, go to fairtaxguys.com and watch the archived versions of both the video version here, and before that, the podcast we had from Spreaker. Those work.
So
fairtaxguys.com, check that out.
There's all kinds of ways to catch up with FairTax Power Radio. We're getting out in as many platforms as we can, and in the near future here, we're going to take steps to expand our reach.
Indeed, we will do that.
Yep.
But for now, we have got to say so long, everybody. We've reached the end of this episode. So again, thank you for watching FairTax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
and I'm Ron Malero.
The FairTax Guys again reminding you that the fair tax is America's big solution, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So what would you do for her?
We've got several programs that will help her. We just need to find out how much she makes. But the good news is, the less she does, the more we can help.
Yeah.
If I may. With the FairTax, we wouldn't even tax her income. So the more she makes, the more she has.
But still, a consumption tax could eat up a lot of her income.
Which is why at the beginning of every month, we're actually going to give back all that she pays in taxes on basic necessities.
You're going to give her back her taxes?
Every month, on everything taxed on basic necessities. But we're also going to give it back to you and to every American citizen.
Why?
Well, we believe taxes should be fair.